Alrighty. So, thanks. We've been talking about the balancing of forces, how to set up neutral pivot points for rotation, that sort of thing. This will still touch on neutral pivot points. I want to bring in one more concept, and that's what I call the seam. Okay, this helped me a lot. How does he get to be strong? Well, one of the things he has is the ability to establish this radius from his center out here. And if you try and change that, unbendable arm is also unstraightenable arm. I mean, he has the ability to decide what that radius is, and if you mess with it, you're going to run into him. So there's a whole thing where we talked about getting inside it with our energy. You see it? When I shifted in and went inside it, okay, but stronger. Now it's inside, but if I keep going inside, I just run into structure. So there's this place that once you touch the center, the rest of it has to be on what I call the seam. Now, a way to visualize the seam, if you look at a yin and yang symbol, the white and the black drips, the tomoe, the place where the white and the black touch, that line is energetically neutral along that line. So there's always a balance between the white and the black. Now, some places there's more black than white, and then on the other side is more white than black, but that line is neutral. So if you look at how am I going to move here, too much in hits, too much out breaks connection. But in between that, there's this whole range of motion where it can move on that seam, and it's energetically neutral. It doesn't matter how strong he is. Okay? So I'm looking wherever we touch to just run that. I'm not pushing, I'm not pulling. This is what I was saying. If you're not pushing, which is too much out, and you're not pulling, which is too much back, what's in between those two? Moving along the seam. So you see him trying to pull away from it a little bit. If he pulls away from it, then the seam starts to change. So I have to go in with it. If he were to push against this, it would actually want to go this way. But the movement was along the seam, which is why I can do things like this. Strong. If I'm not on the seam, I'll break my own finger. I need to go in and touch and then give it movement. So I'm not moving this, I'm moving this. This is moving right along the seam. It can go up over the top. It can come down underneath. It can even go down around the bottom of the ball and come up underneath. It can move here. But all the movement is right on that neutral place. So the way to talk about that in terms of technique is once we connect, I don't want the pressure to change at the contact point. When I reach in here and touch, yeah, there's a certain pressure that's created by our two centers coming together. After that, whatever I do, I would like him going to the ground, and I would like that pressure not to even change. If I'm in the right place in the first place, I don't need more pressure. I touch the center, then the rest of the movement's on the seam. We played with this a little last night. I just didn't describe it this way. I was talking about touching the center and then moving you, and they'll move with it, okay? But this way I'm going to talk about it, the geometry of this. So start here with palm to palm. Take your hara inside that so that you're kind of coming up, and then allow this in is constant, and allow your hand to start rotating while you keep going in. Now right here, see how he wants to release back to that spot? So I need to give it some place to go. So I'll remove this hip. So I got out of the way of it. If it stops, half the time it's because you're in the way. Get out of the way. Then there's a place for it to go. Okay? Really easy. And you've seen Satomi Sensei do this. He'll have the guy stand like he's doing a karate punch. Ugh. And, wow, he's so strong. And then he'll come over and he'll touch him and put him in Sankyo. That's what he's doing. The entire movement there, I didn't grab this and try and twist it because he'll say no. Ugh. I moved right on the seam. I'm not breaking connection. I'm not fighting with them and colliding. Once I touch here, the rotation happens right here. Now he's screwed up and I can go in underneath him and I have Sankyo. Okay? So we can do that in a minute, but this one's easier to learn it. Okay? Same rotation on the middle finger we were talking about, where the middle finger lines up with the bone. Thumb and forefinger are going to rotate around that point. Here's the in energy. Then I'm going to take it out here and I'm going to get out of the way with this hip so it can fall right there. Try it. And Hansen Sensei's being too nice. Never. Guys, look. See, you just went away from me. You see it go away? Mm-hmm. Now, if we were fighting and you tried to get away from my power that way, I would enter in and take your space away from you. You'll never get it back. So you have to reach out and touch my center with that. So reach in. See there. He's got my whole body now. Can you see how when he went in, he's actually connected all the way to my back foot to the floor. You can see how you can feel my back foot? Now, start to rotate a little bit. Don't move this. The in has to stay. Keep it in, keep it in, keep it in. Rotate it. See what's happening? It's hitting my shoulder now. See how I'm coming up? Now, stay right there. If you continue doing that, it'll get harder and harder now, because the rotation is hitting a part of the curve where it's starting to come in. So we're talking about maintaining the balance. As this is coming in, keep it rotating, but take the hip away from me. There it goes. You feel it free up again? So if you look at a curve, there's a part of the curve that's coming towards them and a part of the curve that's coming away. Right here I'm going in, but there's a point of the curve now where if I keep just doing this, it runs into his back foot. That's when the release has to happen back here so it can keep going. So you have to feel this, okay? Everybody knows they're not supposed to collide here. So what they do is they try and do what you did, which is, oh, there's the collision, I'll get away from it. But see, you were just nice. Yeah. If you moved in there, I would never get it back. I just collapsed. I never collapse. This is always in. It always owns the space. But on the other hand, I have to get out of the way so the arc can complete itself. So right about here, this hip got out of the way. Now, if I want him to fall here, this hip will get out of the way and he'll fall into my space right there. So remember we were talking about 1, 2 with the stick? It's not on the center axis. It's actually this hip, then this hip. So initially, okay, I want this hip to move so that he can go this way. And then right now he's ready to fall, so I'll take this hip away and let the thing complete itself and he falls right there. If I don't get out of the way, I can be really relaxed here, but I'm actually, as you feel the pressure change, I'm not really on the seam anymore. It's not neutral if it starts getting harder and harder and harder, or if it gets lighter and lighter. This initial touch to the center, if it gets lighter, I'm probably, see, he followed it in that time, but what if you didn't? I'm breaking connection. If it gets harder, I'm hitting structure. In between those two is this neutral place where I can move them at will. Okay? So I'm looking for my techniques to feel this way. Kodagaish. We're talking about, do you want to torque the wrist? I'd actually like to connect here and then move me. Did the pressure change on the hands at all when I did that? No, sir. That's what I'm looking for. Because if the pressure's changing where the contact point is, somebody who's strong can beat it. But that was just connecting and then giving direction to that connection. He actually was still really strong and really rigid when he hit the floor. I didn't have to twist his wrist. I moved the whole thing. And I moved it on the seam. Then if you want to torque his wrist there. But what's happening? Keep doing it, because this is, I'm just using this because it's a perfect example. It's working, but he's not falling. So what happened was, once again, you took this, but you weren't deep enough with the connection. And so you can get to the point where you can move the arm, and the reason you're going right now is you're making your arm tight. But what if you weren't making your arm tight? This is missing you. You can't stop my moving your hand, but it's not moving you. So this initial touch, you have to be inside that with your connection. So I'm going all the way across and touching that shoulder or that hip. Now when I move, his whole body's caught in it. Then I'll get out of the, okay? So if you're not deep enough on these connections, you can be moving at a neutral point, but it's just the hand. It's not like he can stop my moving the hand here, because I'm still not running into him or breaking connection. But the energy's not deep enough to catch his whole body. So when you start doing stuff, if you had movement was happening, but you don't feel like you're affecting the center, 90% of the time it's because you're not deep enough with the connection. Put your mind back there, and now when you rotate, you see, I got everything out to his elbow out there. Now I'll release it and let him fall into the space. Does that make sense? So watch yourself, because once again, if you're watching the hands, that's probably where your energy went, and then you'll move the hand. If you want to move all of them, you got to connect to that. If you don't understand this idea of how to go in deeper with your connection, the way I teach this with people is just start with Katata Tori and let him grab you. And I'm completely relaxed now. I'm not doing anything. And then sequentially go, touch the wrist, touch the elbow, touch the shoulder, touch the far shoulder, touch the far hip, touch the back foot, touch the front foot, touch the front hip. Can you see him moving every time I make one of those changes? What I'm studying is how moving this creates a different direction for that connection. It's all happening back here. So if I had a sheet of paper and a little pen here, you could ask me to describe a shape and tell me I can't move my arm. So it all has to happen back here. If I want up, the pelvis rocks forward. If I want down, the head comes forward and the pelvis goes back. The spine's staying the same, I'm unified, but I'm giving direction. If I want it to go that way, I'll release that hip. If I want it to go the other way. See how I'm doing this with my body, not the hands? There's actually no power in the arms. The arms and the hand movement give direction to the energy of the connection, but they don't create power. All power is back here with the body. Okay? Your down comes from the weight of your arms falling and your knees bending, basically. The horizontal comes from the hips and relative movement of the feet. Okay? And when you feel technique getting difficult, you're probably trying to make the wrong body part responsible for the movement you're trying to get. So all of a sudden you see people using their shoulders to try and get the horizontal. But we already said it's the hips. Shoulders don't do a thing. Okay? Then the down. They try and make the arms do it. Well, if you push down to get the down, you watch the shoulder pop. You can always tell when somebody's pushing down because their shoulder pops. But I'm not popping. Okay? I get here, watch my shoulder. You don't see this. It's down here and you see this. That's just my legs and my verticality falling on top of them. Does that make sense? So on this, when I'm doing this, if I want to go in deeper, I don't do it with my arm. I don't use the arm to do that. It's not that it doesn't work. It's just that your goal is to have what's happening not very readable from the other guy. If I use my arm to do this, he can feel that I'm doing that, and he can disconnect from it or try and counter it. Whereas right here, if I need a deeper connection, I'll move this in. So the place he's touching, there's actually no movement at all. I'm not moving the arm at all. Then inside that, there's this rotation. And all of a sudden he's moving, and his brain isn't quite sure why. Then when I get out of the way, he falls into that space. Okay? You see how that works? You would like the motive power for whatever's happening to happen away from where they are. So it's much harder for them to read what you're doing. Okay? There was some, I can't remember. Usually I try and always say who I got stuff from, but I read this somewhere and I cannot for the life of me remember who said it. It was some book I read. But the guy said, if you understand what was just done to you, it wasn't Aikido. Okay? So I'm wanting this to happen, and I want him going, why am I moving? Okay? I don't want him to understand. Connect. And then after that, it's I'd like him asking himself why he didn't just take his hand away. And then eventually the touch, we're doing this very slow so you can feel the whole arc and both people can really feel it. Eventually it's this fast. And that makes it even harder for him to read because he doesn't have a lot of processing time. The touch was touch, touch. Maybe the touch was touch. And then by that time he gets there, he comes and I already touched him. Come in, touch. See that little? We didn't physically touch that time. The touch was more energetic. By the time he gets there, I've already done that movement. So the touch to the center we're talking about eventually doesn't have to be physical. He needs to feel like it was there, but I don't have to physically do it. So we were talking about Aikido being how I connect through your sensory inputs to move your mind so your mind moves your body. And we're starting with the physical. This is your sense of touch. I go in here and I make this touch. Went all the way over to there. Then I play with how to move myself in such a way that that touch can stay neutral through the whole movement. So I don't empower his. Later, he comes to grab me, bam. Same hand. Bam. I already did it. Where was the touch? The touch was there. Boom. See him? It's like, if he's wussy about his attack, he'll just say, whoa, and that's fine, okay? But if he's serious about the attack, when I reach there, see that little lurch he just did? I'm already getting him to, it's like when you thought the door was going to be really hard to push open, so you pushed really hard on it, and instead the door flew open. So I give him this thing which says, how serious are you about coming into my space? And so he energizes against that. You're really late on that. Every time I do those, that was really what's coming. So you better be ready. Yeah, why you block it? Grab it. You know what that is? That's tension. I know your proprioception knew where my hand was, but you missed it because you had so much tension in your arm. If you're going to grab something moving, stay relaxed. Better. So, bam, there it is. It's too late now. You see what I mean? I'm messing him up before he's ever there. That's this made a little more sophisticated. You got to figure out just the neutral place to move before the energetic stuff starts to make sense. So just the touch, reaching in. Very, very, very solid. Now, he shouldn't be trying to do something, don't even push down right now, okay? Just sort of be immovable. It's not like he's trying to screw me up here, but on the other hand, he should be solid. He doesn't want to just kind of, see, I pushed in there. He's not moving. You can see it touch him, but if I hit that, all you see is a rebound off the floor as his structure reorganizes. That's what he should be doing. He doesn't have any intention of stopping me. He's not doing anything to mess me up. But on the other hand, he's giving me a really nice structure here. That means that if I go in too deep, I smash into him. If I try and get away from it, I break connection. There is this place right in between that where this works fine. And for me to find where the perfect place is, I need to have a partner who it doesn't work on if it's not perfect. If he's all wibble-wobbly, I can just turn my hand over and almost anything works. I need to be able to reach in and take this guy who's really grounded and really strong and find where this will move without any effort. Okay? Stay strong. I'm going to go up his spine here. When this comes in, this goes up his spine and makes him light. Then I have to release it over here. And as that turns and I release, then I'll let it fall into this place. So that's why Sensei, make the fist like Sensei does. Okay? Do that karate punch one, the rotational. So Sensei will come up here. Here's the touch, where I took my energy, not here, where the fist is, but there where his center is. You see it go in? But if then your attention goes to trying to turn this, that doesn't work. So once I touch, the movement's on the seam. You see how this is, there's a whole place this can move where it doesn't interfere, it doesn't break connection, but it doesn't go in harder. Once the movement starts happening, that rotation can happen inside that. So I take this guy who's really strong, touch his center, move it. Took no effort to do that because I never went where his strength was. Okay? That's kind of the theme of the class is, where's the place where I touch and movement doesn't break but doesn't collide? That's why you can throw somebody with one finger. Okay? This guy's very strong. But when I touch here, this movement is not happening at a place where his strength makes any difference. It's right on the edge of it. Okay? Thank you.